He saw her shivering at the bus stop and thought she was just another stranger, but the moment he spoke, everything changed forever. Leela Morgan, 26-year-old black nurse, exhausted from night shifts at the hospital, small and slender, with deep brown eyes that carried both fatigue and quiet strength, stood alone at a nearly empty bus stop, shivering in the icy night air, clutching her worn bag tightly, unaware that her life was about to take a turn she could never imagine, her body stiff from hours of standing. Her mind replaying the subtle insults and microaggressions she endured at the hospital where she saved lives but was often overlooked or treated unfairly because of her race and gender, her uniform wrinkled, her shoes scuffed, yet her heart full of determination, hopping tomorrow would bring respect she rarely received. While around her, city lights flickered and occasional cars passed by, indifferent to her struggle. Marcus Whitfield, 50-year-old white billionaire, drove past in his sleek black luxury car, eyes catching the sight of Leela frozen on the sidewalk, the unusual stillness of her small figure drawing him in, sensing something extraordinary beneath the ordinary exterior, something that most people never noticed, and without hesitation, he parked and stepped out, his expensive coat brushing the snow, boots crunching softly, and as he approached, his gaze softened yet carried authority. Seeing not just a young woman in discomfort, but someone who had endured invisible battles, someone who deserved recognition. Leela noticed the approaching man and instinctively stepped back, unsure if he was friend or stranger, her heart racing, expecting judgment as she often did from the world around her. But Marcus, lowering his voice, spoke gently, yet with command, asking if she was okay, his words cutting through the cold and loneliness, and when he extended his hand and offered a ride, Leela hesitated, memories of being dismissed, underestimated, and ignored flooding her mind. Yet something in his calm assurance made her nod ever so slightly, a spark of hope igniting in her chest, a feeling she had not allowed herself in years, the city noise fading into a hush as she realized this encounter might change everything. The night was tense with unspoken possibilities, and as she climbed into the warmth of his car, the cold biting her skin outside, Marcus observed quietly, noting her resilience, her exhaustion, and the pride she carried despite the world's indifference, understanding that this young nurse, unnoticed by so many, possessed a strength few could match, and he silently vowed to help her see her own worth, unaware that their meeting would unravel a story of courage, transformation, and justice that would touch lives far beyond that frozen bus stop. If you want to see how Leela's life changes and the challenges she overcomes, comment below, subscribe, and stay tuned for Chapter 2, where the suspense deepens and secrets are revealed. Morgan shivered under the harsh wind as Marcus Whitfield opened the car door and ushered her inside, ignoring the startled stares of passengers and bystanders who whispered judgments about her appearance and station in life, while hospital staff and colleagues had no idea she had left her shift early, struggling with exhaustion and unpaid bills. As Marcus's eyes softened seeing her trembling hands and weary expression, he decided then that she deserved more than survival, that her talent, intelligence, and grit could not go unnoticed, and as the engine roared to life, he gently asked her name and listened intently as she spoke, realizing her dreams had been quietly deferred by circumstances, subtle racism, and societal indifference, and he promised he would help her find her worth, a new beginning, and security she had never known, while Morgan could hardly believe her luck, feeling both apprehension and hope, her heart racing at the uncertainty of the night ahead. The city lights reflecting off her tear-streaked face, and in that moment, she understood that some people's lives changed with a single choice, a single act of courage from someone who saw beyond color, exhaustion, and judgment, and Marcus silently vowed to shield her from the invisible chains of prejudice that had always held her back, setting in motion a chain of events that would challenge both their worlds, test trust, and ignite respect, friendship, and potential that neither could yet fully comprehend. Proving that kindness, decisiveness, and recognition of human dignity could alter the path of a life forever, and as the car disappeared into the night, the passengers and bystanders would never know how one small act could ripple into a lifetime of opportunity and justice, a lesson Morgan would carry in her heart forever, reminding viewers to subscribe, comment, and witness the full story unfold. Morgan felt her chest tighten with a mix of fear and cautious hope as Marcus Whitfield navigated through the quiet city streets, his presence commanding yet protective, every honk flicker of headlights, and passerby glance seeming insignificant compared to the promise of safety and respect he offered, while Morgan's mind raced with memories of the subtle and blatant dismissals she had faced in the hospital, from colleagues who whispered, from patients who assumed she lacked knowledge, from supervisors who overlooked her talent, and even from strangers who judged her by the uniform she wore and the exhaustion etched into her face. Yet now she was in a car with a man who saw her humanity first, who acknowledged her intelligence, her compassion, her resilience, and she realized that every small act of kindness could ignite change greater than any rules or social barriers. And as Marcus drove, he explained his vision for helping people like her, offering mentorship, resources, and a chance to rise above the inequities that had long shadowed her life, while Morgan's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of disbelief and gratitude, thinking of her family, her friends who had supported her quietly, her late nights studying medical journals, the sacrifices she had made to care for others while neglecting herself, and how those very sacrifices had now brought her to this crossroads. And Marcus assured her that the world could be cruel, but also transformative when those in power recognized and acted upon the potential of those who were underestimated. As they reached his estate, the grandeur was overwhelming. Yet Marcus's demeanor reminded her that the power was not meant to intimidate, but to uplift. He guided her inside, introduced her to key associates, and set the stage for her to contribute meaningfully. While hospital staff and colleagues who might have mocked or doubted her would never know the journey she was embarking on, and Morgan understood that resilience, integrity, and the courage to accept help were as vital as skill and dedication. That life sometimes required trust in strangers who could see your worth, and that one act of recognition could rewrite the narrative of a person's life, a lesson she vowed to carry and one day pass on to others, inspiring viewers to comment, subscribe, and follow every twist of her remarkable story, because sometimes the smallest decisions of one person can illuminate the path for many, proving that hope, respect, and action could break the cycle of judgment and indifference and lead to a future brimming with opportunity, dignity, and justice. Morgan stepped out of Marcus Whitfield's mansion into the crisp morning, the city still sleeping, and she felt an unfamiliar weight of possibility settle on her shoulders, the kind of weight that mixes fear with exhilaration, as she recalled every sneer, every whisper, every dismissive glance that had followed her through hospital corridors. And now, every act of prejudice she had endured seemed dwarfed by the recognition of her worth from a man who could change systems with a single decision. Marcus walked beside her, calm yet commanding, explaining the opportunities he had arranged, mentorship programs, medical scholarships, and community outreach initiatives, all designed to uplift those like Morgan who had been overlooked, while hospital staff and colleagues, some who had doubted her skills, would hear whispers in the days ahead about her collaboration with one of the most influential men in the city, and passengers and bystanders, if they knew, would marvel at the transformation. A simple act of kindness cascading into monumental change. Morgan's family, who had sacrificed so much for her education and well-being, stood in the background, their pride palpable, and Marcus, sensing her reflection, reminded her that true resilience was shown not only in enduring hardship, but also in embracing help when offered, that her journey was not just about individual success, but about breaking barriers for others. And as they arrived at the hospital later that day, Morgan's presence was no longer invisible. Colleagues who had doubted her now watched as she led workshops, trained new nurses, and implemented health programs, her voice calm yet authoritative, her determination unwavering, and every patient she touched felt the depth of her empathy and expertise, while Marcus observed from a distance, knowing that his decision to intervene that night had not only changed one life, but had also created ripples of hope across communities. And Morgan understood fully that dignity, opportunity, and justice were won through courage, action, and the willingness to seize the moment. And she vowed to pass on the lessons she had learned, teaching others that perseverance combined with timely recognition of talent could dismantle prejudice, uplift the underestimated, and create a world where potential was nurtured rather than dismissed. And as the sun rose over the city, the light reflected in her eyes, a symbol of triumph over adversity. A testament to the power of belief, and to the viewers following her journey, remember that small acts of recognition can change lives. Leave a comment, subscribe for more inspiring stories, and never underestimate the strength within or around you, Because even in a world clouded by judgment and bias, hope, courage, and compassion have the power to transform everything.